Okay, we're ready to go?
Yeah.
All right, would somebody like to read for us Revelation chapter 10?
I saw still another mighty angel coming down from heaven, clothed with a cloud, and a rainbow was on his head. His face was like the sun, and his feet like pillars of fire. He had a little book open in his hand, and he set his right foot on the sea and his left foot on the land, and cried with a loud voice as when a lion roars. When he cried out, 7 thunders uttered their voices. Now, when the 7 thunders uttered their voices, I was about to write, but I heard a voice from heaven saying to me, seal up the things which the 7 thunders uttered, and do not write them. The angels whom I saw standing on the sea and on the land raised up his hand to heaven and swore by him who lives forever and ever, who created heaven and the things that are in it, the earth and the things that are in it, and the sea and the things that are in it, that there should be delay no longer, but in the days of the sounding of the 7 angels, when he is about to sound, the mystery of God would be finished, as he declared to his servants, the prophets. Then the voice which I heard from heaven spoke to me again and said, go take the little book which is open in the hand of the angel who stands on the sea and on the earth. So I went to the angel and said to him, give me the little book. And he said to me, take and eat it, and it will make your stomach bitter, but it will be as sweet as honey in your mouth. Then I took the little book out of the angel's hand and ate it, and it was as sweet as honey in my mouth. But when I had eaten it, my stomach became bitter. And he said to me, you must prophesy again about many peoples, nations, tongues, and kings.
Thank you. Oh, this is interesting, right? Bit of a departure from the pattern that we've been in. And that is because chapter 10 is an interlude. Now, if you remember, we talked about interludes before when we were going through chapter 7. And we talked about an interlude being pretty much a device or a way to include parenthetical information, or information like it's in parentheses. It's like extra stuff to add to what we know and to add to the sequence that we know about. So it fills in the gaps, it gives us context, and pretty much the same as chapter 7 was. It answered, that was answering the question, who will survive? Right? This one is providing additional detail for this stage in the process. Okay, and if you notice, the last interlude was between the 6th seal and the 7th seal. This interlude is between the 6th trumpet and the 7th trumpet. So there is order, even though it appears this stuff is random and all over the place. And if you understand what's an interlude and what forms part of the chronology or the order of events, you're going to be far less confused about what's going on in this book. Okay, so it helps us to identify and go, actually, yeah, it does stand out as being really different to what we've just been reading, and that is because it's an interlude. All right, it's been added to give us context. So who is this strong angel or this mighty angel? Lots of people think this is Jesus. I don't think it is. The description is very similar to Jesus in Revelation chapter 1. If you remember, Jesus had a face that was shining like the sun, and he had feet like bronze, and he had eyes like blazing fire. And there's some similarities to the way that God was described in Ezekiel chapter 1, and there's also similarities to how Yahweh is described in Exodus. Right? There's similarities to all of these Godhead figures and what's going on around them. And a lot of scholars believe this is Jesus. Right? And I wouldn't be surprised if you've been taught historically that this is Jesus. The reason I don't think so, there's a couple of reasons I don't think so. The first is that John says this is another mighty angel. The word for another, alright, so in Greek, there are two different words that both get translated as another. The first one is allos, which means another of the same kind, and the other word is heteros, which means another of a different kind. Okay? Now the word that's used here is allos. It's another mighty angel. It's another angel of the same kind as the previous mighty angel same type of angel as the previous one. Now, if this was Jesus, we know the previous angel wasn't Jesus. So if this was, and John's really clear about who he's referring to as angels and who he's referring to as like the Son of Man or the Lamb or these characteristics of Jesus. But if this was Jesus, even if Jesus was being described as a messenger, John would have used heteros here rather than the word he chose, which is allos. The second point, as I was sort of just saying, Jesus is not referred to as an angel anywhere in Revelation. Other parts of the Bible, that's a little bit murkier, but John's very clear when he's referring to Jesus. And we can know when he's talking about Jesus. The other reason for my belief this is not Jesus, this angel we've just read swears by him who lives forever and ever. Now, Colossians chapter 1 verses 15 and 16 say that Jesus is the creator of all things. Now, if this angel was Jesus, he wouldn't have sworn by himself. Alright, that's not how swearing oaths by something works. And also, in Jewish culture, you always swear by something greater than yourself. Alright, so if this was Jesus, he wouldn't have sworn by him. He wouldn't have sworn by himself. He would have had to have sworn by somebody greater than himself. Who's greater than Jesus? Well, you could argue that he could swear by God, as God, but also by swearing by God, this angel differentiates himself, and we know this isn't God. Okay, so there's a bunch of different evidence that tells us that this is just another mighty angel who has come to fulfill a particular role. In verse 3, it says the angel places 1 foot on the sea and 1 foot on the land. We know that Jesus' feet won't touch the earth until his return at the end of the tribulation. He's going to set his foot on the Mount of Olives, and we're going to see that great earthquake that literally splits the Middle East into bits. Alright, so if this is Jesus, he's back early. That's weird. Alright. The thought is this might be one of the archangels, possibly Michael. Yeah. And that's because of the references to mighty angels. This is another mighty angel, so potentially an archangel. And to understand what he's doing and why, we need to understand his little book. Is this the scroll with the 7 seals? No, I don't think so. Because it's called the little book, and John's just seen the scroll. He would have called it the same thing. We've got the same person writing this big long account. If he's seeing a book appear for the second time, he would have surely written that down.
Why is it called a scroll in mine? Little scroll.
Just because of the way that your translation interprets the Greek words.
Because you just said that it's not.
It's not the scroll with the 7 seals, right? Because that wouldn't be called the little scroll, would it? It would be known as in exactly the same terms as previously. Okay. Now we know from Daniel chapter 12, which we are going to read the entire chapter in a minute because there's a whole bunch of stuff in there that is essentially the same vision as this one. So we know from that there are some things that are sealed up and that are not revealed to a particular time. Okay, so let's turn to Daniel chapter 12 and we're going to read the whole chapter.
At that time, Michael, the great prince who protects your people, will arise. There will be a time of distress such as not happened from the beginning of nations until then. But at that time your people, everyone whose name is found written in the book, will be delivered. Multitudes who sleep in the dust of the earth will awake, some to everlasting life, others to shame and everlasting contempt. Those who are wise will shine like the brightness of the heavens, and those who lead many to righteousness, like the stars forever and ever. But you, Daniel, close up and seal the words of the scroll until the time of the end. Many will go there and there to increase knowledge. Then I, Daniel, looked, and there before me stood two others, one on this bank of the river and one on the opposite bank. One of them said to the man clothed in linen, who was above the waters of the river, "How long will it be before these astonishing things are fulfilled?" The man clothed in linen, who was above the waters of the river, lifted his right hand and his left hand towards heaven, and I heard him swear by him who lives forever, saying, "It will be for a time, times and a half a time, when the power of the holy people who have been finally broken, all these things will be completed." I heard, but I did not understand. So I asked, "My Lord, what will the outcome of all this be?" He replied, "Go your way, Daniel, because the words are closed up and sealed until the end of the time of the end. Many will be purified, made spotless and refined, but the wicked will continue to be wicked. None of the wicked will understand, but those who are wise will understand. From the time that the daily sacrifice is abolished and the abomination that caused desolation is set up, there will be 1,290 days. Blessed is the one who waits for and reaches the end of the 1,335 days. As for you, go your way till then. You will rest, and then at the end of the days you will rise to receive your allotted inheritance."
Thank you. Interesting little passage, isn't it? When we read with the context of everything we've just been reading in Revelation, there's so many bits that you go, "Oh, that lines up, oh, that lines up, this is interesting." In Daniel 12, so Daniel is told to seal up a book until the time of the end. Okay, so there's something that Daniel knows about, but no one else is to know about it until later on. And that means to seal it up until the end of the second half, or basically seal it up to the second half of the tribulation. There's a bunch of other references to this process. Notice that when the seventh trumpet sounds, right, the second half of the tribulation is going to begin. So we are effectively halfway through. We're right at this point, okay, where we're expecting this little book to be opened, or this book from Daniel that's been sealed up until the time of the end to be opened. The reference in Revelation to time, times and half a time, that means 3.5 years. Right? Time being 1 year, times being 2 years, and half a time being half a year. You add those all together and we've got 3.5 years. This is the same time period that Jesus was talking about in the Olivet Discourse, and it's the same time period we see mentioned later on in Revelation. Okay, so this passage in Daniel is talking about 1,290 days. I think that was in this bit here. There's also a passage when we're talking about the 70 weeks of Daniel, which lines up time-wise as well. So we are pretty clear that there's going to be a 3.5 year, or there's going to be a 7-year peace treaty. Halfway through, exactly halfway through, 3.5 years through that peace treaty, there will be something done in the temple that causes the Jews to leave their temple desolate. They're going to abandon their temple because they're going to have to flee. And we're about to see all of that unfold in Revelation, but these prophecies are pointing at this. Also notice in this little passage we had an angel who was standing on water, with a bunch of angels who were standing on men dressed in linen, which is another reference to angels. They're standing on waters, which is an interesting thing to do because humans don't normally stand on rivers and on waters. And they're raising their hands to heaven and swearing the same sort of oath that we just saw sworn in Revelation. So there's a whole heap of, once again, whether this is a precursor or whether this is just a different person's interpretation of what they're seeing happen, or they're being shown something by God that's going to happen, they line up very, very nicely. I believe this little book, so we talked about the scroll with the 7 seals being the title deed for the earth, the process of redemption. This little book, I believe, is the judgment summons. This is the process of evicting all the dodgy characters from the earth. So this is the process that's going to take 3.5 years in preparation for Jesus' return. Other than Israel, who will come to a saving knowledge of Jesus when they realise the Antichrist is not their Messiah. Whoops, we got it wrong. And God's going to protect them and look after them when they flee. We're going to hear next time about how the dragon tries to drown them, and there's all kinds of stuff that goes on for poor Israel as part of this mid-tribulation set of events. But essentially we've now got this process that is, and this book that outlines what's going to happen to the bad guys, what's going to happen in terms of the judgment that's going to be delivered for them. In Joshua chapter 10, verses 24 to 26, basically they place their feet onto the necks of kings to show their power and their authority. This angel, when he shows up in Revelation chapter 10, by placing his foot on the land and placing his other foot on the sea, he's showing his authority over both of those domains. And not coincidentally, in Revelation 13 we see a beast coming out of the sea and we see a beast coming out of the land. This angel who's shown up has authority over both. Alright, so they're still under the authority of God in this process. Now, as kinsman redeemer, Jesus was worthy. He was worthy to break the seals on the scroll. He was worthy to redeem the earth. He now has the right to possess the property. The scroll's been unveiled. We've seen what's in it. He's got the right to possess the property. And what he's done is he's actually sent a representative to the earth, like a proxy, to just go, hey, this is going to happen, but I've got other stuff on. I've sent my representative. If you recall, Revelation, we haven't got there yet, that's next chapter. Revelation 11 verse 15, the kingdom of the world has become the kingdom of our God. That shift has happened. Alright, so once we hit the midpoint, legally it's transferred, but now we've got to go through the process of getting rid of and restoring what is left. Okay, so it's a process that's underway. It's going to take 3.5 years, and that's the point of the second half of the tribulation, is to restore this process. And the reason that this angel is displaying so many characteristics of Jesus, of God, and of the heavenly environment, the rainbows and all those sort of things, is he's there as their representative. He's embodying these aspects. But it's not God himself, and it's not Jesus himself. It's an angel, a mighty angel that they've asked to come in advance of Jesus. Okay, let's go back to Revelation chapter 10, verses 3 and 4. And he gave, this is the mighty angel, he gave a great shout like the roar of a lion, and when he shouted, the seven thunders answered. When the seven thunders spoke, I was about to write, but I heard a voice from heaven saying, keep secret what the seven thunders said, and do not write it down. Now this is a bit different, because everything else, John's been told, write it down, come on, what are you doing, write it down before you forget it, keep going. God has chosen to not reveal to the world what these seven thunders spoke. The reason for that is because it's kind of like, if you're in a legal case and you're taking someone to trial, you're not going to let out your strategy before you get there, because you want to catch the person that you're trying to convict unawares. You don't want to tell them exactly what you're going to find them guilty of. You don't want to give them a heads up on your strategy. That's why I believe that this has been kept separate. Because if we're talking about the eviction process for Satan and all of his followers, the world, and the people who are refusing to repent, these are people who have picked sides, and it's not God. God's not going to give them the exact details of how they're going to be convicted or what that process is going to be. All right, so it's been sealed up until the time of the end, because if they knew it, it would disadvantage God, basically, and he's not going to do that. Verses 5 and 6. Then the angel I saw standing on the sea and on the land raised his right hand towards heaven, and swore an oath in the name of the one who lives forever and ever, who created the heavens and everything in them, the earth and everything in it, and the sea and everything in it. He said, there will be no more delay. Now he raises one hand because he's got the book or the scroll and this little book in the other hand. This mirrors the prophetic words of God to Moses, where God swears he's going to judge the ungodly. And he's like, there'll be no more time. We're done. We're there. My patience is done. We've hit this appointed time. Verse 7. Then when the seventh angel blows his trumpet, God's mysterious plan will be fulfilled. It will happen just as he announced it to his servants, the prophets. Okay, so when the angel blows his trumpet, the seventh trumpet, it doesn't refer to a moment but a time period. So it's a bit different to when the four angels were set off for this appointed time. We're talking about a time period for completion. Now, God has a mysterious plan. This is the mysterious plan for the redemption of the entire world. And it gets revealed bit by bit. So there's actually 7 elements of that. There's the mystery of the rapture, the mystery of Israel's blindness, the mystery of Christ in the church, the mystery of Christ in us, the mystery of the kingdom of heaven, the mystery of godliness, and the mystery of lawlessness. So we have, basically, God has all these secrets that have been secrets or mysteries from the beginning of time, and then from time to time he reveals them. So these ones are no longer mysteries, but we've still got mysteries that are going to be revealed when he blows this 7th trumpet. Okay, so there's still stuff that hasn't been revealed. We don't know everything yet. Okay, verses 8, 9 and 10. This is where it gets a bit weird. The voice from heaven spoke to me again, going, take the open scroll from the hand of the angel who was standing on the sea and on the land. So I went to the angel and told him to give me the small scroll. That takes bravery. John's obviously getting a bit more brave because initially he wanted to faint when he saw these heavenly creatures. Now he's walking up to a mighty angel who has the appearance of Jesus and going, I'll have the scroll, thanks. That's pretty cool. So I went to the angel and told him to give me the small scroll. Yes, take it and eat it, he said. It will be as sweet as honey in your mouth, but it will turn sour in your stomach. So I took the small scroll from the hand of the angel and I ate it, and it was sweet in my mouth. But when I swallowed it, it turned sour in my stomach. Did John actually eat the scroll? This is the question, right? I don't know. But this is a whole heap of Hebrew idiom in here. So to eat something or to consume it,
to digest it.
it's to consume it by, it's to gain knowledge by reading or studying, right? So we can understand if there was a symbolic, we're talking symbolic here. It was sweet on the first reading. John's like, yes, great to see the redemptive plan in action. Great to see that, good job, God, you're awesome. This is wonderful. And then as he begins to digest it, as it hits his stomach and he's processing it and he's going, oh my goodness, this is awful. This is awful. This is not good. You'd be feeling for all of the people who were under this judgment, who were going to have to live through this awful time, who were going to be. It's not going to be. It really is not going to be fun. We can't imagine how bad this is, and he's been trusted not only he's seen the judgments happening and heard what the 7 thunders said, and that's been excluded for us. He's got more information than we have. He would have been horrified. So whether he's actually literally eaten this, like in a dream where you eat stuff you're not supposed to eat, we don't know. It is possible this is symbolic, but either way, this would be pretty shocking for him once he realises what it actually means.
Pretty hard to sleep.
Absolutely. And once again, so verse 11, he's told to prophesy again. Then I was told you must prophesy again about many peoples, nations, language and kings. Right? He's feeling pretty sick at this point. He's feeling awful. And there's a reminder, actually, time to start writing again. Because remember he got told not to write this down? Yeah. So you have to, in order for him to continue the story, he's included the bit where he got told not to write it down, and here's why. Here's the bit that I didn't have to pass on. And here's the command to write again. So we need to know what's coming next, which is similar to what he's been doing. He's just writing down what he sees and what he hears. The next couple of chapters are still interludes, so we're filling in context and filling in detail, and we don't get, we get the 7th trumpet. We'll see that next time, but then we've got more interlude around that. A little bit more positive because God has a plan and there's a new plan. We just don't know the details of it, and we're about to see what happens next. So we don't see the judgment and what the detail of the convictions, but we will see what happens in response to that.